Hey guys, welcome to a new series that I suppose I'm just calling Deck Analysis or something like that. If I think of a more creative name in post-production, I guess I'll name it that, but in any case, I want to look at some decks and give my thoughts on them. I'm thinking about opening this series up to viewer submissions. However, for today, we're going to be looking at the 35th place deck from YCS Chicago. This is Block Dragon Burning Abyss. Now my throat's a little messed up, so we'll see if my voice holds out, but we're just going to do the best that we can. Getting kind of straight into the profile, the first really interesting thing that we're going to be seeing is one of each Burning Abyss monster. We're even running Kagna, Dragig, and Rubik. So the whole idea behind this deck is that we only want one of Dark Attribute monsters, so that we can always summon the Orbital Hydrolander, and then we run multiple Earth attributes because they can be banished by Block Dragon. So this is a very different take on Burning Abyss than other Sekka's Light builds that are floating around that have cut Orbital Hydrolander altogether and are instead going for lots of extenders. Also notable, this deck has no dangers in it, but we'll get to that in a second. So we have our 11 Burning Abyss monsters. I think that might be a little bit much. One Skarm is fine, I think. We are missing the second Farfa, however, so that hurts a little bit. We want to make up for that a little bit, just for consistency's sake. Playing all three of the sort of useless ones, it's fine. I think you could cut one or two, maybe even all three of them, and the deck would probably be fine, given that you put in dangers. So one of the immediate issues I see with this deck, and I think this deck could be optimized in a lot of ways, that even if you're only trying to play one of each Dark Attribute monster, you can still play one Tsuchinoko, one Jackalope, one Nessie. If you want to bump up your danger numbers even a little bit more, you could play Chupacabra or Mothman. I just don't think there's really a great reason to not play them. They're just really strong cards, even if you're just playing one of each. So that's one of the places that I think this deck could go in the future that would make it even better, and that would allow you to cut some of the useless Burning Abyss monster. Now, rounding out our Dark Attributes, we have Tour Guide and Edgimp Sabers. Going into the Earths, of course, we have 3 Fiendish Rhino Warrior, 2 Mathematician. Mathematician is a card that I don't think is quite as strong as it was. One of the interesting things about Mathematician before Snow was banned is that not only could it send Edgimp Sabers to set up a Dante, but if you had other ways of making Dante and setting up your plays without using your normal summon, you could just send Snow directly to the graveyard with a normal summoned Mathematician. That's not available anymore. However, it is Earth Attribute, so it does make it a target for Block Dragon, and by virtue of that, I suppose it deserves its spot in the list. We can play the 3 Gallus, kind of playing these in place of dangers. It's okay to play multiples because Block Dragon. One of the interesting new inclusions is Power Giant. Now this card has floated around a bit. I've seen people talk about it before as just sort of another extender. You discard well, you don't discard, unfortunately. You send one level 4 lower monster from your hand to the graveyard and special summon it, and then you decrease its level by that monster's level. So if Power Giant is level 6, so if you send a level 3 from your hand, special summon it, then it becomes level 3. So it actually has a pretty convenient level. It is a Earth Attribute monster, once again, for Block Dragon. Speaking of which, we have our 3 Block Dragon. So all this does pretty much for us is that it banishes 3 Earth monsters from your hand or graveyard and special summons itself. This means that if you have multiples of Earth Attribute monsters in your graveyard, you can get rid of them with Block Dragon, freeing yourself up to use Orbital Hydrolander's effect. So that's the reason we can use multiple Earth Attributes, but not multiple Dark Attributes. Another effect that is worth noting, besides obviously rock monsters can't be destroyed except by battle, but if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add up to 3 rock type monsters from your deck to your hand, whose total levels equal 8. So with his list as is, we only have Power Giant, which is level 6. One card that he wanted to play but didn't have access to is Doki Doki, which is a level 2 rock monster. You can discard a rock-type monster, special summon from your deck one rock-type monster that is the same original attribute and level as that monster in face-up attack position or face-down defense position. So you can use Block Dragon's effect to search Doki Doki and Power Giant, normal summon the Doki Doki, and then discard that Power Giant to special summon the second one from your deck. Pretty cool interaction. I think Doki Doki would definitely be worth running if you're playing this build. 3 Orbital Hydralander. This is what separates this build from just the mishmash of extenders with dangers. We could still run this card. It's really strong still, obviously. Also running the 2 BLS. There is somewhat of a lack of light targets. You do have the 2 light attribute kaijus, and you have Dante and Beatrice. You just don't have a ton of them, though. He suggested cutting both of the BLSs and adding the Doki Doki to make a 40 card deck. I think going over 40 cards, at least up to 45, in Burning Abyss is fine, so long as you're playing Dangers. So if you play the one of Dangers like I suggested, I think you could maybe go a little bit over 40. It's because they're a bunch of draw power, they go through your deck. So I think that'd be fine. But if you want to play 40 card deck, I think that's a solid suggestion. 7 kaijus, just playing all of them. I think this is going to be a pretty common theme in a lot of Burning Abyss decks this format. They're pretty much an auto win against Sky Strikers. They're solid against Thunder Dragons. If you're going second into some combo decks, it can make their boards a little bit easier to play through. Just really solid cards overall. And of course, finishing off the 3 Sekka's Light. Going into the extra deck, this is where I think some more missed opportunities are. Actually, before we talk about the extra deck, we'll also point out that not only was he playing no Dangers, he was playing no Destrudo Mare combo. Also, a Deception in his Danger deck. It was pretty much pure Danger, except he was playing an Orcust engine, about 5 cards. I think that's another direction you could go. I just feel like this deck is really missing some of the really spicy combo aspects of a lot of other decks that are meta right now. And so this deck, I feel like there's still places to go with it as far as the main deck goes. And so it is with the extra deck. So the Beatrice, of course, double Dante. He didn't play Boral Sword because he didn't want to pay the $100 for it. I respect that. A lot of people were looking at this deck and saying, oh look, I don't need Boral Sword Dragon for this deck, so it's way cheaper than all the other variants. Truth to be told, even this variant would really like to have Boral Sword pretty much just as much as any other variant. The Orbital Hydralander BLS makes it slightly less necessary. Slightly. I would definitely still suggest playing Boral Sword. It would make this deck better. You know, so if you have it, definitely play it. If you don't have it, don't sweat it, I guess. He does have the Borreload, though. Bomber Dragon, just a solid link 4 that you can link up to from a link 3. Brisbana, staple for fighting Sky Strikers and all the back row decks. Decode Talker and Triple Burst Dragon are both cards that we haven't seen in a while, and they both kind of feel like filler. The Decode Talker can get a lot of attacks, so you could argue maybe it takes the place of the Boral Sword a little bit. Triple Burst, it's okay against Sky Striker, but when you're already playing 7 kaijus, I don't think it's really that necessary. So that's something you could replace with something else more useful. He's playing the full Nightmare package with an extra Phoenix. That's something I feel is cuttable. And then he has the Underclock Taker and the Pilgrim. So, more missed opportunities, I feel like, in the extra deck, besides the obvious Boral Sword Dragon, whatever. There is no Summon Sorceress combo. There is room for the Reproticus and the Summon Sorceress if you want to do that. Give yourself another going first option. Again, especially if you're adding in, you know, the one of Tsuchinoko, one of Jackalope. You could add in a one of Defrag Dragon if you wanted to. Just more level 3 extenders to kind of round out that combo. You know, they're still very good going second, but if you are forced to go first, as you sometimes are, excuse me, just gives you a stronger going first option, sets you up for success a lot better than just going Underclock Taker Beatrice. He also does not play, once again, the Strudo, Mare, Yazi stuff. There is definitely room for Yazi, Reproticus, and Link Karibo in this extra deck if you want to go that direction also. Going into the side deck, 3 Ash Blossom. He said he never really sided in all 3. Fair enough. I think Ash Blossom is one of those hand traps that should probably be main decked if you're going to run it at all. It doesn't feel specialized enough to really justify being played in the side deck right now, at least not in Burning Abyss. I feel like if you're going to be side decking hand traps, that should be dedicated to things like Droll and Lockbird, Artifact Lancia, or Psyframe Gear Gamma, which he did play. Psyframe Gear Gamma is very powerful. There are some kind of odd combo decks here and there. Most of them are not very strong, but there are a few that do in fact exist, and this is a really strong counter to a lot of them. So I think this is still a good side deck choice. It's a good last format. I still think it's decent this format. Double Pankratops. It's Earth, so it has some synergy with the deck. I don't really want to main deck it. It can sometimes conflict, and you know, if you're forced to go first, it's terrible. It's a solid card. I've considered both siding and maining it. I'm not a huge fan of it right now, truth be told. It's pretty good against Altergeist, so maybe just by virtue of that it's worth playing. But then again, you can just play 3 Red Reboot and 3 Twin Twisters. Reboot, obviously against trap decks, is the stronger of the 2, but Twin Twisters still a solid option and has some coverage for other decks if you want to. If you want to decide in more things against Sky Strikers on top of the 7 Kaijus you already have, then Twin Twisters is there for you. So overall, I think it's a very interesting idea. I've sort of seen rumblings of Block Dragon, but you know, this is obviously the first tournament. We have a profile of it succeeding. It separates Burning Abyss from a lot of other decks this format. Like I mentioned, Edisepsion's Danger deck. It's basically just a giant pile of Danger cards with that Orcust engine, and I believe it runs the Destrudo and Mare. In some ways, it is just better than Burning Abyss with a bunch of extenders. So this build really separates Burning Abyss. It gives it a different niche by giving it access to cards like Block Dragon, especially Orbital Hydrolander. Running the BLS, even though you might cut it. You know, Kaijus fit in pretty seamlessly, just because the deck is so consistent and doesn't run any dangers to discard them or anything. It's just it's a different way of playing the deck this format. Is it the optimal way of playing this deck? I'd argue probably not. I think playing a bunch of dangers, you know, you don't even really have to run Nessie, but even if you just want to run the 3 Tsuchinoko, 3 Jackalope, probably run Destrudo, Yazi Mare, run, maybe try to fit in that Orcust engine, could try to run the Azathoth combo, try to get in some level 4 extenders and the Redoer with Rusty Bardiche. There's just a lot of other kind of spicy blowout combos that you can fit into Burning Abyss that are probably better to be running. But then again, maybe that you do just end up with an inferior Danger Orcust deck. You know, you're running all these terrible Burning Abyss cards. You know, Graf, Seer, Beatrice, Dante are all very powerful cards, but I don't know if they're strong enough to really justify running all these cards over just a giant pile of dangers. So I think that's something that will remain to be seen. Really what the value of Burning Abyss in of itself is going forward in this format. And I look forward to seeing lots of different builds of the deck. I think Thomas Rose is going to be putting out a list soon if he hasn't already. Maybe I'll look at that deck and make a video out of it. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about on this deck. If you guys have any questions or comments, I'll probably respond to those in the comments. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.